Hey everybody, hope you guys are all doing okay and welcome back to Let's Play Siralim Ultimate. And today's episode is going to be a little bit special because today I'm finally going to be doing a proper build overview for the party that I've been running. In the past few weeks, past couple of months even, I've been getting quite a few comments, people asking me for my build, and what I've been doing is I've been linking to the videos where I put this build together. But those videos, and I kind of always knew this, they're not that great for the purpose of showing people how to make this build, because that was me assembling this build in real time, and there were lots of cases where I had to like backtrack, like I put a spell, I had to switch it out for another spell, a lot of trial and error. And when people are asking for a build guide, I don't think they're necessarily asking for, the director's cut version with all the behind the scenes stuff. I think they really just want the basic facts. So that's what we're gonna do in this video. So before I get into the components of the build, we're gonna talk about the very basics. This is a perkless fermented hops build. Now let's take each of those two things in isolation to see what they mean. Perkless, because ordinarily there are 4 components to a build: perks, anointments, spells, and traits. But this build is based on only anointments, spells, and traits. No perks. Why is this being done? Well, it's because the game has a ton of achievements for winning 100 realms with each of the different classes. And while you could, in theory, play each of these, spend the 20-30 hours you would need to come up with good builds for each of these classes individually, you could do that, or you could instead use a build that is so cracked that it doesn't even need any perks, and you can just use it on any of these classes and get the victories that you need. Now, it's not a very immersive way of playing. I do like immersing myself into video games, but I also like 100%ing video games. So my thought process is we'll get these achievements done, and then we'll try and find other, fun ways of playing. So that's why it's a perkless party. It is also a fermented hops party, because that is the spell that this party is based around. I'll be looking through the spells in more detail in just a moment, but for now, I guess let me just go to the codex, the spell list, and I'll show you. Let's find it like this. Yeah, fermented hops. The reason we're going with this spell is because it is a percentage damage spell that hits the entire enemy party, at least the ones that are afflicted with blight. There's, I think, only one creature in the game that is permanently immune to blight. Everybody else is gonna be getting hit by the spell for a percentage of their damage, and once you apply the damage multipliers that we have in this party, it's gonna be doing more than 100% of the health of almost any enemy in the game, including most nether bosses, and including all the false gods except for Jotun, but Jotun can't be damaged anyway. He has a whole separate gimmick, right? So that's the basics. This is a perkless fermented hops party. Oh, one other thing I should mention about the perkless part. It's not even that you can play this party without perks. I would strongly recommend that you don't use any of the perks, because it's possible that using perks could lead to some unexpected, unwanted interactions. I have only tested this party in completely perkless setups. Alright, so like I said, there are 3 components to this build. There are the anointments, there are the spells, and there are the traits. It doesn't really matter what order you go in, because they're all like equally important. Let's start with the anointments, just because it's quick and easy to get out of the way. There's only 5 of them. Let's see. There's Burn Their Corpses and Firestarter. This is to stop enemies from resurrecting. Burn Their Corpses means they always have burning. Firestarter means they always, if they have burning, will not be able to resurrect. The exception being False God fights, which, I don't know, they have some dumb exception to this rule. I don't agree with it, but it's what the game has right now. Speaking of another thing that I don't agree with, there's another game mechanic that I hate, which is why I have Singleton in this set of anointments. Singleton means enemies will only be able to do one action at a time, or only one iteration of any given action. They might sometimes do 2 or 3 different actions, but each of those will only happen a maximum of 1 time. The reason I have this in the party is especially for high instability realms. Often there will be realm properties like enemies cast 11 times, cast spells 11 times, or like attack like 9 times, and that just wastes a lot of your time. Even on turbo mode, it wastes so much time that it's just not worth it. And it should be obvious, but it should be even more obvious now, is with this party, we want to win battles quickly, right? So Singleton's there to save us some time. Voracity. This is more of a utility skill. It doesn't help us directly with the fermented hops part. What it does give us, though, is health scaling for ordinary spell damage and attack damage. So if we do have to use our spells and our regular attacks, this will mean that those are also pretty powerful and able to kill most creatures, but will fall off against certain bosses because bosses have elevated health pools. Worldbreaker is an anointment that scales our blight damage. I wish I could show you these in detail from the same page. I guess we'll go individually. So Voracity is a Blood Mage anointment. Burn Their Corpses and Firestarter are Pyromancer anointments. Worldbreaker is a Shadow Bringer anointment. And finally, Singleton is a Wind Runner anointment. All of these are useful to have. You can switch out Windrunner if you don't mind wasting your time, and if you think something else, like if you're struggling to survive and some of these other anointments help you. Because one thing that I would like to use if I had the space would be Dreadnought, where attacks can never be dodged. Because sometimes when enemies dodge attacks, you have to take extra turns to kill them. But ultimately, I think the time wasted by enemies attacking like 9, 10, like casting spells 11 times in a row is just way more of a pain. It might not even waste more of my time, but when it does happen, it just annoys me way more. So those are my 5 anointments. Next, we have our spells. So it's important to have these exact 5 spells in these, these 5 spells, you can change their order around, but make sure that the top 5 spells for the first 3 creatures, I'll talk about the makeup of the creatures when we talk about traits, but make sure that the first 5 spells are these spells, right? Fermented Hops and Star Pact are the damage dealers, Entangling Roots to snare the enemy, Blank Slate and Greater Dispel to get rid of extra enemy traits and to get rid of any debuffs that might be on you. And because of the way this works, these spells will be cast automatically at the start of battle. Or, like, not at the start of battle, but at the start of the turn for each of these mimics. And so the order does matter. I have Fermented Hops and Star Pact happening first. If you wanted to really play it safe, you could put Greater Dispel on top of Fermented Hops. Like just put Greater Dispel on the top. That'll mean that whoever starts the battle will dispel. That means if you have really bad debuffs on you, like Confused, for example, those will get eliminated before you start casting your offensive spells. Because if you're confused and you try and do an offensive action, it has a chance of backfiring on you. For a while I did that, but the problem with putting Greater Dispel on top is then it'll then be cast in every single battle, right? In every single battle, it'll be the first thing cast. And like the little bit of time that it eats up compared to the number of battles that you're doing overall, I don't think it's worth it. Compared to the one odd battle where you start out confused and it just takes you like one extra turn to win. So, you know, it's up to you which way you want to go, but this is how I've done it. And then the 6th spell will not be cast automatically, but it's there in case we need it. I have many copies of it in case we need it. Astral Dimension will help you unseal your spell gems if they've been sealed for some reason. So those are my first 3 creatures. Then my 4th creature has Archangel's Blessing in case I need healing. By the way, all of these spells are gonna have ethereal copies. I think the name for that spell property was changed. It used to be like ethereal, non-ethereal, but now I think it's more like permanent and non-permanent. So the generous property means that a single-use copy of this spell will be given to all of your creatures. And a lot of these spells will only need to be cast once in a battle, if even then. If even that much, because a lot of the battles will just instantly end. Now, let me go back to my spells. So, Condemn Light is... So Condemn Light and Morph Sorcery are ways to manipulate classes. Condemn Light changes enemy class to life. Morph Sorcery changes us to sorcery. This will become more relevant when I start talking about traits later. Archangel's Blessing is a fantastic health recovery spell. And Life Orb in case we need to resurrect our creatures. Very rarely comes into play, but it's there in case we need it. Number 5 has these spells. Wormhole, in case we want to put a specific creature on the top of the timeline. There are even use cases for putting enemy creatures on the top of the timeline, especially on those boss fights where enemies have random immunities, like they're immune to a certain class or to a certain type of damage, and the only way to get them to change is to force them to take another turn. Time Walk and Wormhole are useful for things like that. Clayman is a way to raise our maximum health, because like I said, if we need to use regular attacks and regular spells, it's scaled off of our health. Metamorphosis is it's a useful spell in certain situations, like there's that one nether boss who has a like you can do a maximum of 5% of his health per turn. So let's say hypothetically you get the expected roll on this, which is like 50.5%, you know, 1 plus 100. divided by 2. Round it up. Let's say you've brought him down to 51% of his health. That's still the fight ending in 11 turns as opposed to 20. Right? So this is there for situations like that. And finally, my last creature has Time Walk, which I mentioned is a timeline position manipulation spell. He also has Finger of Death, which is a damaging spell, and another copy of Astral Dimension, just to be on the safe side. So those are all of my, excuse me, all of my spells, and we have gotten through most of it. And again, remember, for the mimics, have these spells, these 5 spells in the top 5 slots. You can mix and match which spell goes first, but make sure these 5 spells are among the top 5. Right, now just let me pause while I get myself a drink of water. Alright, that was a ton of talking, so I gotta stay hydrated. The last thing to talk about is the traits. Now, the first trait that your creatures will get will be from their base type. And at the top, under the name of each creature, you know, excuse me, under the name of each creature, very creatively named Mimic A, Mimic B, Mimic C, it tells you what their actual race is. In case you've given the creature a different name, it will tell you what their race is. That's essentially their base type. That will give them their first trait. My third creature is the Avatar Frieden. My fourth creature is the Avatar Frieden. My fifth creature is a phase. Excuse me, my throat's already starting to go. A phase warrior. My sixth creature is the exotic Lunatio. Now let's start looking through their traits. And remember, first trait is from the base type. Second trait is from the fusion. Third trait is from the artifact. So all of these 3 mimics will have the same first trait, which is, in most battles, they will start at the top of the timeline. The only exceptions are if the enemy has shuffled the timeline, or if they have agile, or some other timeline manipulation. But in most battles, they will be the ones going first. Right? So now let's look through their traits. The first one, is Surprise. The fusion trait, Ascendancy. The creature can cast spells without consuming charges. This will be the same for all 3 of the mimics, which is very, very useful for casting spells without the fear that you will run out of charges. And to the best of my knowledge, it even applies to your non-permanent, ethereal copies of spells that are given to you, to your creatures by the generous enchantment, right? So that was that was trait, the fusion traits, and the artifact traits. There's Spasm for all 3 of the mimics. This is the thing that allows them to cast their spells right away. Oh boy. My throat was just not built for this amount of talking, but you know what? We're gonna power through. So this is what Spasm does, right? At the start of each of the mimics' turns, they will attempt to cast their first 5 spells in the order in which you put them. And I put the damaging spells first. You can put the defensive spells first if you want, but this is how I've done it. Now let's look at creature number 4, Excuse me. Sorry. Frieden. This is his base trait. Enemies always have these 4 debuffs, unless they have some specific immunity to them. They will always have Blighted and Poisoned. His fusion trait is a multiplier on blight damage. Enemies take more damage from Blighted for each debuff that they have. I believe Blight itself counts as a debuff, and the poison, of course, will also count as another debuff. And you can put even more debuffs to stack that even further. And his third trait, his artifact trait, is Aggravated Illness, which is another Blight damage multiplier. For my for my fifth creature, this is his base trait. Creatures take less indirect damage. Super important because indirect damage represents some of the most annoying types of things that enemies can do. A lot of the time, if you get wiped and you're not sure what killed you, chances are it was something that did a bunch of indirect damage. So this is just very useful to have. And then the fusion trait silences enemies at the start of battle for 1 turn. Again, super important for, I guess, tactical purposes, but mainly for saving time, because a lot of enemies have spell triggers that go off at the start of battle, before anything else even happens, like before our mimics take their turns. So what this will ensure is that they, unless they are resistant to silenced, which can happen in instability rounds, if they're resistant to silence, if they're not resistant to silence, they will be prevented from casting spells, which is going to be most of the time. And then the artifact trait is, I think this is another Blight damage multiplier. I'm not sure how the math works. I've seen conflicting things, but if for nothing else, we have it for thematic purposes, and maybe it's a damage multiplier. So the way Blight works is when an enemy attempts to heal themselves, it instead gets turned into damage, and if my understanding of it is correct, then this would be an extra multiplier on that damage, right? Now we get to my final creature. So like I mentioned, right, for all of these creatures, the first one is the base trait, the second one is the fusion, the third is the artifact. That is true for all of my creatures. The only exception is the final guy, the Lunatio, because I haven't fused him yet. This party is so good, I simply have not felt the need to fuse this guy. So his first trait is his base trait. This is the guy that I use if I really need to kill somebody with physical attacks and physical attacks only. This is what he does normally. He attacks more times and he does more damage. Pretty standard. Nothing efficient, effective, nothing too flashy. And his artifact trait means he cannot cast spells manually, but after attacking tries to cast a single target spell on the same enemy. And if you'll remember, the only single target spell he has is Finger of Death. So the way it works is if he attacks an enemy and the enemy doesn't die, he then will also try to cast Finger of Death on that same enemy for a bit of extra damage. Those are all of my traits. Now, some of you might be wondering, you might be saying, hey, you might have noticed that some of my creatures have more than 3 traits, right? Some of my creatures have more than 3 traits. And here's what. So, I've been playing this game for more than 1,000 hours, and yes, I do in fact have a treasure trove of nether stones with different traits on them that I've been hoarding since they started dropping. Yes, I have all these stones. No, I will not be disabling them for the purposes of this build overview because damn it, I earned them, right? I put in the hours. I did my time. I got to where I am in this game by pulling myself up by my bootstraps. And I am not going to deny myself the fruits of my own labor just to avoid hurting the feelings of a bunch of peasants. If that offends you, then fucking deal with it. But I am not unequipping my nether stones. All of that said, this party is good enough to win without the nether stones, but if you find good nether stones, then it can give you a little bit of extra here and there. I think I've just about gone through everything. Well, I guess one thing I'll mention when it comes to nether stones. So my creature who had all the class manipulation stuff, strictly speaking, you don't need these spells. The only reason I put them is because of one nether stone that I found, which was which gave me this specific trait. The creature deals more damage for each sorcery creature you have greater than the enemy. So based on that, I gave myself these spells, which allow me to first change the entire enemy party to life, and then change my entire party to sorcery. So now all of a sudden, the enemy has no sorcery creatures, and I have 6 for a nice damage multiplier. But I almost never even need to use this creature because honestly, between the Fermented Hops and the Star Pact, which is the damaging spell that my mimics have in case for some reason enemies are either immune to indirect damage or highly resistant to indirect damage, then this is the second thing. Like, this opening salvo takes care of almost every single creature, right? But yeah, that's one final thing that I wanted to mention, and now we gotta get on and do some realms. It wouldn't be a great build overview if I didn't show this party in action, and as luck would have it, I need to do 7 realms in a row. Actually, no, I only need to do 5 realms in a row at instability 5, which is the highest currently, in order to fill up my Goblet of Trials. So, what we're gonna do is I'm gonna make sure that I have the correct thing on my yeah, we have the Mesmerist. All right, and now we're gonna go and we're gonna do some realm delving. And at this point, I think I'm gonna stop with the explanations for how this build works, because I think I've done enough talking, and I'm gonna let it speak for itself. See, I'm not sure why those enemies survived the Fermented Hops. It doesn't look like they have... Oh, there's less damage taken. There's a less damage taken mod. Right, okay. That explains it. Well, obviously if there's a direct damage reduction being applied to you, then you're gonna be you know, doing less damage, because that's how numbers work. But this is why I have the Star Pact as a secondary thing. If for some reason the Fermented Hops didn't kill them, then the Star Pact certainly will. Alright. We gotta cleanse a rift. Let's go ahead and do that. And this one should do. Very nice. God damn it. I see it as a personal moral failing every time I fight a creature and they survive the first turn. See it as a great dishonor among me and my entire clan. But like I said, most creatures, even with penalties being applied to you, should be dying just on turn 1, like before the battle even really begins. We've already finished this round, but you know what? You gotta run around, see what sort of fun stuff you can find. We also have to find the master, obviously, because mastery bonuses are nice. They are permanent bonuses, so it's good to stack as many of them as you can. And yeah, master fights or quasi-boss fights, they have a lot of health, so not surprised that that guy lasted an extra turn. Right, have I donated? Oh, now I have. Alright. Alright, what do we got left? Well, there's one enemy I'm not sure if I'm necessarily interested in finding him, but there might be some fun stuff if he's in a whole separate room. And looks like there was not much of a point coming here at all. One thing I'm gonna do though, given the amount of talking I've been doing, is I'm gonna pop a lozenge, a cough drop, because I've said this a bunch of times. I do not have the anatomy that it takes to be a like to do commentary. Like, I'm one of those people, even if I'm just talking to someone and it's a normal conversation where we're both like talking for half the time, even in that situation, within like 10 to 15 minutes, my throat will start to go. And given the rapid fire just jibber jabber that I had to do at the start of this video, I do need a bit of a medicinal assist. Right, let's go to another round. Oh god. Another round? Another realm. Let's do it. Right, we got an exotic realm. That's nice. Oh boy. Yep. My throat is in rough shape. I'm looking forward to... Well, I haven't even had dinner yet. But after dinner, I'll have a nice cup of tea. We've got to attack crunchers in this round. That's these guys. Alright. Let's move along. The reason I'm avoiding a lot of combat isn't because I'm scared that I'll get killed, like in these rounds. It's because I'm trying to play as quickly as possible. And, in my case, that means skipping combat unless it's gonna give me something really interesting. That's a trash netherstone. Alright. Do I care about riddle dwarves? No what? I forgot. I still haven't found a dumpling. Motherfucker. Oh. Well, I could start farming the arachnid nest, but let me do these 5 rounds in a row at high instability before I go into the arachnid nest, and hopefully we just find a dumpling. Oh man. Yeah, now I remember the shit, the nonsense from last episode. It shouldn't be this hard. The reason I didn't kill this guy in one turn is because the game literally won't let you. Leader is immune to damage, debuffs, and stat reduction while allies are alive. I think that's a trash affix. Instead of just being immune to all damage, he should have like a damage shield equal to, let's say 300% of his health. But after you get through that, you should be able to just kill him dead. I strongly disagree with mechanics where the game just like decides for reasons out of your control that the enemies aren't gonna take damage. But you know what? We'll get through it, man. We'll get through it together. God. Moving around in this game is actually trickier than it looks. Right, we'll kill a couple of these, and we will continue. Alright, next round. This is going to be our first false god. And we'll see our... oh, this is another trash round property. Another thing that will sometimes cause battles to take more than one turn is the 32% chance to resist damage. Another trash round property that needs to be removed from the game. But it's in the game for now, and there's really nothing that anybody can do about it. There is a certain build that can kill enemies like that, but the problem is the trick that build relies on will not work in boss fights. And this build will kill almost every enemy on turn 1, almost every enemy in almost every round, and will also kill boss fights in one turn usually. So that's why I opted for this plan. But that build is also a pretty fun one. I might build it at some point, maybe as an episode like 600 special, because it is genuinely a fun build. It relies on some of the newly introduced one-hit kill spells and being able to cast them at the enemy en masse at the start of combat. But that doesn't work against bosses. Against bosses, it gets changed to just doing percentage damage. This one I also disagree with the game on, but it's less of a problem. Like, I can see why, you might want to give bosses some immunities, but I also really respect games where you're allowed to just one-shot bosses if you're strong enough. And the analogy I always use is like no matter how powerful someone like Dexter Morgan is, I've been watching the Dexter Resurrection series lately, enjoying it a lot. And obviously Dexter is the big hero, like anti-hero, you could say. But like he's the protagonist, and obviously a really formidable dude. But you take someone like him, and if you shot him in the head, he's still gonna be just as dead as any other random person who gets shot in the head, right? And I think the same logic kind of applies to boss fights. If you've got a build that's the equivalent of just headshotting people, then I feel like the bosses should be on equal footing with the rest of the pack. You get hit by the hops, you're just as dead. Oh god, hang on a second. Let's kill the Tremor Master. Tremors are really annoying, so I'm really glad that fight ended quickly. Do I want to hand in this project? I do need to hand in this raid mission. Start a new project. Can I do another synthesis? Nowhere. I'm nowhere close. Oh, hang on a second. Do I need to... I don't need to do any other specific project. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start a key forge. And then I'm just going to hold on to that key forge until the next Rune of Prophecies. Right, next realm. This realm has extra traits. This is why Blank Slate is on the is among the top 5, because it'll get rid of the extra traits that enemies have, and it'll just prevent fights from having like awkward chaos in them. Because a lot of really goofy stuff can happen when enemies have extra traits. Not sure why those guys survived. Some sort of... Must have been some sort of something to do with what type of creature they were. But yeah, most fights in this realm should just go like that. It might also be the fact that their traits are active at the start of battle, because we're not casting Blank Slate straight away. We're casting Blank Slate after our damaging spells. So it could be that because my mimics are trying to cast their damaging spells, they're trying to cast their damaging spells while the enemies have a bunch of extra traits. It's possible that one of those extra traits is temporarily giving them a bunch of extra defense. Alright. Oh, I gotta destroy flags? That's what we're doing? Alright. Alright. We still have to kill the master. Another Pando shrine. Alright. Not sure why you survived. Must have been the extra traits. Extra traits is another one of those realm properties that I would... that I think, on balance, the game would be more fun if it just wasn't there. But... like, I'm not as bothered about it as I am with the ones that make enemies just randomly immune to damage. That one, I think, is far more egregious. Where's this flag, man? Where are these flags? Hate flags. I hate nationalism. How dare they? How dare they try and develop a shared identity based on a collective story. It just makes me so mad. Alright, what are we doing? We're leaving. We're leaving. New realm, and this is gonna be our first false god fight against the Lost Construct. Taking this in a random realm. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Where is this? So, against certain false gods, picking this is actually dangerous for this build, Because if enemies start going before us, especially false gods, a lot of them have insta-kill mechanics. So I never take this. I also never take this because this is just dumb, right? Like, who wants to do a fight that's that long? So unfortunately, we got a really bad roll on these. I wish you could reroll, like get one free reroll and get something else, but I'm gonna give the false god more speed because it doesn't affect us in any way. The other thing you can do in false god fights is, especially as you gain favor with the gods, then interacting with certain realm objects will give you bonuses that persist for the rest of the round. Usually they're not needed for that fight, and I assume it was the extra traits that made those guys annoying. I'm gonna make the false god immune to spell damage, because we don't need spell damage to kill him. We can just kill him with our fermented hops, which I believe is how they make IPAs, India Pale Ales. And if that's what this game means by fermented hops, then I fully understand why it's so lethal to the bosses, because I'm gonna go on record, IPAs taste like absolute trash. And I am fully convinced that nobody on Earth, like not a single person on this planet, I'm fully convinced that nobody likes them. They're just pretending to because they think other people like them, and because it's the like sophisticated thing to drink. But nobody has the courage to just come out and, you know, say the truth. But you know what? I do. So I'm gonna say it. IPAs suck. It's just the worst. Just the worst. And you saw Lost Construct didn't last very long. The only reason he lasted a couple turns was because I voluntarily gave him a 1/3 chance to avoid damage. Just because I felt bad for him. Only 4,000 favor out of that. Because I didn't roll for a higher loot bonus. Okay, well, that was a bit of a misplay. But you know what? 4,000 isn't bad. Usually I aim for like 5,000 or higher. But yeah, that was a bit of a misplay on my part. Usually you want to roll your realm bonuses, especially for false god fights, to really maximize the amount of favor you get out of them. But like 4,000 isn't bad. I'm not that upset. Plus, I had other things on my mind in this video. I had to do the whole build overview thing. Right, boys. Let's head home. Now let's see who wins this race. Am I gonna find a nether realm first, or am I gonna find a dumpling first? Well, I put it off as long as I could. I'm just gonna fight Lost Construct again. He is actually the most dangerous boss. It's not, so I'm not farming like easy guys. Out of these, he's the one that's killed me the most often, right? So I'm just gonna fight him again. He also has a lot of anointments that I need to get from him. So we'll fight him again, and I have my Goblet of Trials ready to hand in. I'll hold on to it until the Rune of Prophecies needs me to. And because I want to try and farm dumplings, I'm going to go into the Arachnid Nest. Oh, well, I guess we know who's going to win this race. Because... So, we can open these chests. Pins and needles, alright, that's a trait netherstone. And then you get a Pandora fight and the realm, which I think gives you a little bit more favor. Sorry, not favor, like some more treasure. Let's take a look at the nether stone that we just picked up. What trait is this? After you take indirect damage, you gain defense. Not bad. Not bad. Can't believe, man, I can't believe we've gone this long without finding a You know what? Oh, that's a duplicate card. You know what? I'm not gonna hand in this Rune of Prophecies until I find the dumpling. Yes, I'm on tilt. Yes, I've got tunnel vision. Not handing this Rune of Prophecies until I get this dumpling. I'm not gonna let the game break me. Like, no, man, no. Like 2 entire episodes. No, like that. It's just not. It's not reasonable, man. It's just not reasonable. Oh, there we go! Oh, this is why we did it. That Nephilim, who was top center, is an annoying creature to fight with this party just because of the way... Like, his trait just means enemies will take their damage. Instead of in one big hit, they'll take the damage in, like a lot of tiny little hits, and battles will just take a long time. But we are gonna have a fully completed Rune of Prophecies, and this is why you go to the Arachnid Nest if you're hunting for dumplings. Because this realm has 2 different object types that can spawn dumplings. The cocoons and the green pools. And I think it was one of the green pools that spawned the dumpling for us. Alright, I'm gonna hold on to that training mission. I'm gonna hold on to that forage mission. Yeah. These, the masters, and some of the masters in this realm are pretty tanky at this point. Let's do a bit of that, a bit of this, go up, around. What's happening here? Nothing. Is there any reason to be in this realm? I don't think so. We don't need any more dumplings, so I'm actually gonna avoid that. Do we have reduced indirect damage? We do have reduced indirect damage in this realm. That's why those the master was so tanky, is because our fermented hops was doing drastically reduced damage, and because of the amount of health that masters have, and especially when they're this high of a level, killing them with reduced damage or like regular spell damage is a it can take a while. Anyway, let's head home. I'm gonna save Scum until I get a good Rune of Prophecies, unless I get really lucky and get one straight away. Funny game, but it might be ruled out, but yes, it's going to be ruled out because of the hunt mission. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the video, and I'll be back once we have a good Rune of Prophecies. Alright, see you in a bit. But this one is pretty good, and one thing I'm realizing is I forgot it because there's only one relic equipped. But I do have Bloodseeker equipped on a creature number 6. What Bloodseeker does is I guess relics are the fifth component of a full build. Relics, anointments, spells, traits, perks. We're perkless. We're not relicless. Like, we don't have to be relicless, but I try to be relicless because a lot of relics are like they take up a lot of time and they don't do anything necessarily useful. So the relic that I hang on. The relic that I have equipped is Bloodseeker. What Bloodseeker does is it just it's a health-based thing. I don't even really think I need it, but it's there. You can effectively ignore it. I don't even know if it's giving me any benefits. I guess the one benefit is if I cast Clayman on the guy who has Bloodseeker, then the maximum health that he gains, the other people will gain a portion of that. But like I said, almost never have I had to resort to using him. Right, so what do we do with this Rune of Prophecies? Well, we kill a false god. We do Riddle Dwarves, and again we gotta do a Dumpling, and we gotta do a Treasure Golem. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to first of all start a new Rune of Prophecies. We have to kill Saint Althea. Oh, well, I'll have to kill her next time because I've already set my bounty. Let me do the gambling. So what we need to do is we need to do Siralim, and I think that's the only gambling. Unfortunate because this is the longest one. Please just don't give me extra turns. The only thing I ask. Oh, come on. Okay, well, that wasn't so bad. Is there anything else I can do in the hub area? Not really. Not really. Alright. So, I gotta find a treasure golem and I gotta find a dumpling. I'm going to do the rest of this episode not specifically farming for either of them, because I want to show this build working in a variety of realms, right? So we'll just do a random realm. Yeah, we'll do a random realm. We get a exotic realm. That's nice. We gotta find scales in this realm. We do have to get this correct. I don't know, man. I'm gonna have to look this up. Siralim Ultimate Troll Ale Mass is, drumroll please, it is a nature type. I would not have guessed that. I always associate trolls with chaos, more so than nature. Or maybe that's just me being racist. Alright. One scale. That's 2 scales. Alright, we're already done. But we're gonna hang around and see what else we can find in this realm. Perhaps a dumpling? Perhaps a treasure golem? We'll have to dig around a bit to find out. Do I have to open treasure chests? I don't. Okay. We're gonna continue this episode until the next false god fight. That's what I typically do, is we go until we kill 2 false gods, which means we're gonna be getting 2 anointments basically per episode. Alright. Let's kill you. Kill you. I've got to destroy that nether stone. It's rarity 232. I'll try and remember it off the top of my head. Alright. And I don't need to be doing Instability 5 realms anymore because I've filled my Goblet of Trials. But I'm doing it just for the purposes of giving you all the confidence that you need that this party can indeed perform at the highest level. Alright. 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 We also... I should have been summoning people at the candle. Only 15. What do we need to kill lots of? Lots of chaos and a bunch of nature. So here's what we'll do. We'll summon what sort of chaos creature do I want to fight? Summon like 2 of these. Summon some nature person as well. And let's just try and get this done. Alright. Just getting that Rune of Prophecy objective out of the way. There's the Master as well. Easy win against him. Getting dark here. It's around 7 p.m., but I think it might be raining. Ideally, I'd like to end this episode before it's fully dark. I've already been out for a walk, but, you know, there's no law against going for 2 walks in the same day. And until they pass that law, I'm gonna keep doing that. Alright. So let me just summon some more creatures. I'll summon a bit of some life creatures. Let's see if I can do some more chaos, maybe? Yeah. I think now that we're almost finishing this little side quest of killing people. Oh, for a second I got excited and thought that was a treasure golem because of the coloring of that enemy. But no, I think it's just one of our summons. Yeah, it's just an oddly colored troll boar. I think we're almost done. Yep, that's it. And no harm in killing a few others. Alright, settle the fuck down. Alright, getting some duplicate cards, which are giving us some tiny stat bonuses. I'm sure they add up over time. Alright. Stop it. Alright, let's continue onwards. Do I want to hand in projects? There's really no need. This Rune of Prophecies isn't even asking us to do any projects. So I'm not going to do any. New realm. There's another boss. Nerlix. Keep going. Hey, another one of these. Another about 1,000 Stardust. I need to find so many of those. Oh, it's one of those angelic enemies are fused with Void Lords. Ah, that's trash, man. Void Lords are they specialize in being resistant to indirect damage. Either like the Angelic Void Lord has a high, like a very high indirect damage on only itself, and then there's another type of Void Lord that I think provides a smaller amount of damage reduction, but applies it to the creatures adjacent to it. Yeah, just a really annoying group of enemies for us to be fighting. Man, I don't know, dude. I really feel like the game shouldn't be asking you about spells, dude. Hang on, man. Living Sword is a chaos. Like, how are you supposed to guess? All of the, like, living equipment spells are different classes, man. There's no way to tell. And because this is a difficult realm, not even a difficult realm, just an annoying realm, this is gonna be one of those where I opt to not do any extra combat. So I know which of these realm objects leads to combat and which of them you can safely interact with without triggering combat, so we'll just go for the latter. Right, this must be the master. Nope. Hey, we got our treasure golem. Yep. You get scolded every time you kill treasure golems. That's still the thing. But we killed him, and now all we need is a dumpling, and obviously, you know, to do the rest of the tasks. All right, that's done. This is the Nether boss. Right, Nerlix, pretty easy boss for this build. All right. How do we do it? Well, I'll see what's happening down here. Man, excuse me? Oh, I need to kill this thing. Oh, that was so dumb, dude. That was so dumb, dude. But it's over. That's why I think like champions need to be like the champion affix. It's not nice, man. It's just not fun, man. So I think we're done. Unless there's something to the right, like if it branches off. Well, the exit. So we are done. I think I'm just gonna hold on to my projects, all of them, until the next Rune of Prophecy. Even the Pilgrimage, which normally I would be handing in just to get favor with the gods more quickly, but holding on to a Pilgrimage for a few realms isn't gonna make or break anything. We're still getting favor by like just doing the realms themselves. So this is gonna be 3 out of 4. Man, Crusader is life. That's one of the few that I know. Plus, like Crusader, you can sort of put 2 and 2 together. What are Crusaders like? They're kind of like lumped in with, you know, clerics and paladins. So what class would that type of thing be associated with? The logic doesn't always work because there are spells and creatures that are very different from what class you would guess they would be based on just the name, but that's one of the ones where I knew that it was just life. All right. All right. Let me just make sure we don't need to break chests. Yeah, we don't. We do not. Would absolutely love to find a dumpling. Okay. Hey, we got a treasure map. We gotta find the treasure. Yeah, it's pretty close by. We're done with this round? We're done. Let's move on. Let's move on. Let's keep going. Desert flowers is what we gotta find. Alright. 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 You get a bit of favor out of that. You get a bit more favor out of that. Alright, keep moving. I think that might be our master. To the top right. Lucanian master. Did not last long. And we got some Nixes, but they didn't last long. Right. That Pando Shrine summoned some enemies. But they well, we do need to kill a bunch of enemies for the various Rune of Prophecy objectives, so it's not necessarily a bad thing. But usually I would lean towards preferring there be fewer enemies rather than more of them in my realms. But hey, dumpling. Yeah. I like my realms like I like my women, with fewer than 4 dudes in them. Yes, something like that. Alright. Where are these flowers, man? Did I just walk? I just walked past one of them. Did I walk past another one, or have I not found it yet? I don't think I've found it yet. Okay, man, come on. Where are you? Where is it, man? There it is. Alright, let's pack it in. Let's wrap it up. Because I think the False God should be coming up. Ooh, should be coming up next. Yes. Another fight against the Lost Construct. there any reason for us to stay in this realm at all? Not really. Let's go. Hey, it's one of these. Alright. Nice and quick. Alright. Let's get this done, boys. And it's still not completely dark outside, so a walk is on the cards. This is a pretty safe thing to take with this build, just because we are so reliably starting at the start of combat that we can cast Greater Dispel almost with certainty before anything happens. And this is also not only safe to take, but it doesn't affect us in any way because we don't do stat reduction at all. The only stat we reduce is the enemy's health down to 0. We cannot never take this. Don't make any bosses immune to indirect damage, because that's the only kind of damage. Well, it's not the only kind of damage this build does, but it's the only way this build could possibly kill a false god with their like billions of health. And yeah, don't put him at the top of the timeline. Once again I didn't roll the bonus. You know what? It's okay. This episode's more about the build overview, so it's okay if I get a little distracted and don't roll my bonuses, because that also cuts down the time where I'm not going into the realms. Did I summon the god already, or... No, I haven't. Likewise, giving the boss buffs is pretty safe because you can vaporize them with Greater Dispel. Where has this boss gone? Probably here somewhere? What? What? No, there he is. Sup, Mr. Construct? Goodbye, Mr. Construct. Only 3,000, that's so bad, dude. But you know what? It's okay. It's okay. We, next episode, we'll go back to farming lots more reputation from our false gods. This one, I was showing you more about how to use this party and go quickly, and probably not everyone is interested in, you know, sitting there like rolling your realm properties over and over again until you get a good loot bonus. So we can keep that for another video. We're done. You know what? Let's just check to see what's in this part of the realm, just in case. And the answer is literally nothing other than chests, which I don't care about. So, let's go. Let's go. First thing we're going to do is set a bounty against Saint Althea. Second thing we're going to do is just wrap up. Right. What was accomplished in this episode? I gave you, finally, the overview for how this party, the perkless fermented hops party, how this functions, and I think we pretty thoroughly explained each part of it. The spells, the traits, the anointments, and even we eventually talked about the one relic, even though it's not really doing as much. And then we did a bit of a demonstration. We killed 2 false gods on instability 5. Well, it was the same god twice in a row. But if you are unconvinced, you can, tune into the next episode where we're going to be fighting Saint Althea, which is also going to be on Instability 5. I will always fight false gods on Instability 5. So, yeah, there's tons of footage of me fighting every single one of the false gods with this exact build on Instability 5. If you have the patience to dig through past episodes. So yeah, we proved once again the effectiveness of this build, and I think that's going to be fine. Before we end off, let me just see what sort of progress I'm making on these achievements. First of all, have I made any progress on creature parts? We're up to 6.76. How am I doing on the Rune of Prophecy stuff? We are... oh my god. We are at 3284 lines and 422 overall Runes of Prophecy. And finally, for the Realm achievements, we are at 99,344 destructible objects and 49,513 resource nodes, getting pretty close to wrapping those up as well. But yes, that's gonna be all for this one. I'm gonna see if I can go for a walk amid the dying embers of this current bit of daylight. But yes, that's gonna be all for this one. Hope to see you next time for more Siralim, and until then, my friends, take care.